I sat at my parents' Thanksgiving table in Raleigh, North Carolina, surrounded by 20 family members when my older sister Emily loudly announced, "Can you please stop begging everyone for money? It's embarrassing." The entire room went silent. Forks froze midair. My face burned as relatives stared at me. My mother looked away. My father cleared his throat. Emily smirked while cutting her turkey. I smiled calmly, pulled out my phone under the table, and canceled 6 automatic payments totaling $3,200. Within seconds, Emily's phone started buzzing violently on the table. The buzzing wouldn't stop. Emily's phone vibrated against the wooden table with such force that the wine glasses trembled. She ignored it at first, taking another deliberate bite of turkey while maintaining that smug expression. My aunt tried to break the tension by asking someone to pass the green beans. Uncle David started talking about the football game, but everyone could hear it. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I kept my face perfectly neutral, taking a sip of water. My hands weren't shaking. I'd expected to feel angry or vindictive, but instead, I felt strangely calm. 2 years of weight had just lifted off my shoulders with 6 quick taps on my phone screen. It had started on a cold November night 2 years ago. I was finishing some financial reports for work when my phone rang at 11:30. Emily's name flashed on the screen. My stomach dropped immediately because Emily never called that late unless something was catastrophically wrong. "Claire, I need help," she said, her voice thick with tears. "I'm in so much trouble." I listened as she sobbed out the whole story. $32,000 in credit card debt spread across 3 cards. The minimum payments alone were crushing her. She was going to lose her car. She'd already gotten an eviction notice. And the worst part, the part that made my heart break, was that her ex-husband was using her financial instability in their custody battle. If she lost her apartment, she might lose Sophie. Sophie, my niece, 6 years old with a gap-toothed smile and wild curly hair, the sweetest kid in the world who drew me pictures of dolphins and asked if I could come to every single one of her school events. "Please don't tell Mom and Dad," Emily begged. "You know they'll just lecture me. They've always liked you better anyway." That wasn't true, but I didn't argue. Our parents had always treated Emily like fragile glass, protecting her from consequences while expecting me to be responsible and self-sufficient. I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one with the good job as a financial analyst who saved 15% of every paycheck. "What do you need?" I asked, already knowing I'd regret it. "Just 6 months," she promised. "I'm up for a promotion at the store. Once I'm assistant manager, I'll make enough to cover everything. 6 months, and I'll pay you back every penny." The 6 payments added up to $3,200 monthly. 3 credit card minimums totaling $900, car payment of $450, rent of $1,200, phone bill of $120, car insurance of $230, and storage unit of $300. It would hurt my budget, but I could manage it for 6 months. For Sophie's sake, if nothing else, I set up the automatic payments from my checking account that same night. 6 months turned into 12, then 18, then 24. I'd paid $76,800 of my sister's bills. Not once did she mention paying me back. Not once did she thank me. Instead, her Instagram filled with photos of shopping hauls, expensive brunch spreads, and new designer handbags. When I finally worked up the courage to bring it up gently, suggesting maybe she could start taking over 1 or 2 payments, she got defensive. "I have a daughter to think about, Claire. Not all of us can be selfish." My own savings account had dwindled to almost nothing. I'd postponed buying a house. My fiancé, Mark, and I had delayed our wedding twice because I couldn't afford to contribute to costs. But Emily posted pictures of her new boots and talked about her girls' trips to the beach. The promotion she'd mentioned? She got it 18 months ago. Never said a word about resuming her own payments. Back at the Thanksgiving table, Emily finally grabbed her phone. I watched her face drain of all color as she read the screen. Payment declined. Payment failed. Account past due. The notifications kept coming, one after another, chronicling the collapse of the financial house of cards I'd been holding up for 2 years. Her eyes found mine across the table. For a second, her mask slipped, and I saw genuine panic. Then her phone actually rang. She glanced at the screen and stood abruptly. "Excuse me," she muttered, practically running to the kitchen. I could hear her voice through the doorway, high-pitched and desperate. When she returned 5 minutes later, she looked like she might throw up. I knew what had happened because I'd timed it perfectly. Her landlord had just discovered her rent payment bounced. She had 5 days to produce $200 or face eviction. But she didn't say anything to the family. She just sat down and glared at me with more hatred than I'd ever seen in someone's eyes. The rest of dinner crawled by with uncomfortable small talk and forced laughter. Everyone pretended nothing had happened, which was what our family did best. As we cleared the plates, Emily cornered me in the kitchen while everyone else was in the living room. "What did you do?" she hissed, grabbing my arm. I pulled away calmly. "I stopped paying your bills, Emily." "You can't just stop. I have bills." "So do I. I've paid over $76,000 of your bills, Emily. You agreed to 6 months. It's been 2 years." Her face twisted with rage. "If you don't turn those payments back on right now, you'll regret it. I swear to God, Claire, you'll regret this." I picked up my purse and coat. "Happy Thanksgiving, Emily." Walked out of my parents' house feeling lighter than I had in months, even as my hands finally started to shake. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. But as I drove home to my apartment, Emily's threat echoed in my mind. I knew my sister. She didn't make empty threats. Whatever came next wasn't going to be pretty. Monday morning arrived with the artificial cheerfulness of my alarm clock. I was still riding the high of setting boundaries, feeling like maybe I could get my life back on track. I made coffee, got dressed for work, and checked my phone. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages. My stomach dropped. The messages were from everyone: mom, dad, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. I opened my mother's first. "How could you abandon your sister in her time of need? After everything we taught you about family." My father's was worse. "Very disappointed in you, Claire. We raised you better than this. Emily is struggling, and you turn your back on her." My Aunt Susan, who I'd always liked, had written an entire paragraph about how cruel I was being to a single mother just trying to survive. My cousin Laura called me heartless. Uncle David said I should be ashamed. Every single message blamed me, criticized me, made me out to be the villain. I tried calling my mother back. She answered on the first ring. "Mom, you don't understand what actually happened." "I understand perfectly. Emily called me yesterday in tears. She told me everything." "What did she tell you?" "That you've been borrowing money from her for years and refusing to pay her back. That she finally confronted you about it at Thanksgiving and you lost it. She said you threatened to ruin her life." My mouth fell open. "That's not what happened at all, Mom. I have proof. I've been paying her bills. Let me send you the bank statements." "Emily showed me papers, Claire. Legal documents. I don't need to see whatever you fabricated." "Fabricated." "Mom, these are from my bank." "Emily has a child to support. You're being selfish and vindictive. When you're ready to apologize to your sister and do the right thing, you can call me back." She hung up. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone in disbelief. I tried calling my father. He didn't answer. I sent my brother Nathan a text asking him to call me. He responded with, "Can't believe you did this to Emily. Don't contact me." Emily had gotten to all of them first. She'd spun a complete lie, and they'd believed her without question. I took screenshots of 2 years of payment confirmations and sent them to my parents in a long text explaining everything. My mother responded, "This could be anything. Photos can be doctored." I wanted to scream. At work, I threw myself into spreadsheets, trying to focus on quarterly reports instead of my family's betrayal. Around 2 hours in the afternoon, my boss, Karen, called me into her office. My stomach knotted. Karen's face was serious in a way I'd never seen. "Claire, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Of course." "HR received an anonymous email this morning with some very serious allegations." The room tilted slightly. "What kind of allegations?" "The email claims you've been embezzling small amounts from client accounts. Whoever sent it included screenshots of transaction records that show irregular transfers." "That's insane. I would never do that." Karen held up her hand. I looked at the screenshots. "They're convincing enough that we have to investigate. Company policy requires we place you on administrative leave while we conduct a full audit." "Karen, someone is setting me up. This is my sister. She's trying to destroy me because I stopped paying her bills." I could hear how crazy it sounded even as I said it. "I want to believe you, Claire. You've been an excellent employee for 4 years, but my hands are tied. Until the investigation concludes, you can't access company systems or client files. I'm sorry." I packed up my desk in a daze. My coworkers watched with barely concealed curiosity as I carried a cardboard box to my car, suspended, under investigation for embezzlement. This couldn't be happening. That evening, a police detective called. Detective Harris from the Financial Crimes Unit wanted to speak with me about a matter involving my sister. "What matter?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Emily Bennett filed a police report this afternoon. She's claiming you stole $32,000 from her over the past 2 years. She's provided documentation, including loan agreements with your signature. I'd like you to come to the station tomorrow to answer some questions." I couldn't breathe. Loan agreements with my signature. I'd never signed anything. This meant Emily had forged documents, legal documents. She'd planned this whole thing. "I'll be there," I managed to say. After the detective hung up, I called Mark. My fiancé worked late most nights, but I needed him. His phone went to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Voicemail again. When he finally called back at 10:30, his voice was cold. "Did you get arrested or something?" "What?" "No." "Why would you ask that?" "Someone sent me a message today. Anonymous. It said my fiancé is under investigation for theft. Is it true?" "It's my sister. She's lying. She's trying to destroy me because I stopped paying her bills." "Your sister? The one you told me was struggling? The one you've been helping?" "Yes. I've been paying her bills for 2 years, and she filed a false police report. She forged documents, Mark." Silence. "Mark, this is a lot, Claire. I need some time to think." "Think about what?" "About whether this is the kind of situation I want to be part of. About our future. About everything." "Are you serious right now?" "I need your support." "I know. I just need space. Let's talk in a few days." He hung up. I sat in my dark apartment and cried for the first time since this nightmare started. My family hated me. I was suspended from work. I was facing false criminal charges, and now my fiancé needed space. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Turn the payments back on, and I'll drop everything. I'll call the police and say it was a misunderstanding. I'll tell the family the truth. All you have to do is keep paying." It's not that hard, Claire. I stared at that message for a long time. She was giving me a way out. 6 automatic payments, and my life could go back to normal. The investigation would disappear. My family would talk to me again. Mark would come home. All I had to do was let Emily win. I blocked her number and turned off my phone. I hired an attorney the next morning. Elizabeth Carter came highly recommended for criminal defense, which felt surreal to even think about. I'd never needed a lawyer for anything more serious than reviewing my apartment lease. Elizabeth was in her early 50s with sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. She spread the forged documents across her conference table and studied them while I explained everything. "These are good," she said finally. "Whoever created these knew what they were doing." "Can you tell they're fake?" "I can tell they're suspicious. The signatures don't quite match your other documents. But to a casual observer or even a police detective, they'd look legitimate. We'll need a forensic document examiner." She tapped one page. "Who has access to legal documents? Who could produce something this convincing?" "Emily's ex-husband is a paralegal." Elizabeth's eyebrows rose. "There we go. Michael Bennett. They have a messy custody situation. I didn't think they were on speaking terms." "Sounds like they found common ground." She made notes on her legal pad. "This is good for us. It suggests conspiracy. But Claire, I need to be honest with you. This kind of defense is expensive. Forensic experts, private investigators, court costs. We're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 minimum." I felt sick. My savings account had $4,300. I'd already depleted everything else paying Emily's bills. "I'll figure it out," I said. Over the next week, my company's HR department conducted their investigation. They found zero evidence of embezzlement because I'd never embezzled anything, but the false accusation had already poisoned the well. My supervisor called me on Friday. "Claire, we're not finding any evidence to support the claims in that anonymous email. You're cleared from our perspective." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you. When can I come back?" "Here's the thing. We'd like to offer you the option to resign instead of returning to work." The accusation created tension in the department, and some clients expressed concern. "If you resign, we'll provide a neutral reference and a small severance package. If you choose to return, we'll have to formally document the investigation in your file. And honestly, it's going to be hard for you here." They were pushing me out. I'd done nothing wrong, and they were pushing me out. "How much severance?" 6 weeks' pay. I resigned that afternoon. With no job and mounting legal fees, I started applying everywhere. Financial analyst positions at smaller firms, bookkeeping roles, even some administrative work. I had a strong resume and good experience. The phone interviews went well. Several companies moved me to final rounds. Then the offers stopped coming. Every single one got rescinded after the background check phase. I finally figured out why when a recruiter I'd built rapport with called me privately. "Claire, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but someone's been creating fake profiles pretending to be your former colleagues. They're posting reviews on professional networking sites claiming you're unethical. There are fake social media accounts too. I tried to bring it up with my boss, but corporate decided it was too risky." Emily. It had to be Emily. I spent hours reporting fake profiles to various platforms, but the process was glacially slow. For every account I got removed, 2 more appeared. My professional reputation was being systematically destroyed, and I was powerless to stop it. Without income, I burned through my remaining savings in 3 weeks. Rent came due. I couldn't pay. My credit card bills piled up on my kitchen counter. The irony was devastating. I'd sacrificed everything to save Emily from financial ruin, and now I was facing the exact same crisis. Mark came by to pick up his things on a Tuesday evening. He'd been staying at his brother's place for 2 weeks. "I need space to think," he said, not meeting my eyes. "You said that already. How much space do you need?" "I don't know, Claire. This whole situation is a lot. The police investigation, the job thing, your family drama." "My family drama?" Emily filed false charges against me. I know that's what you say, but I talked to her. My blood went cold. You talked to Emily? She called me. She was worried about you. She said you've been acting erratic and unstable. She thinks you might need professional help. And you believed her? I don't know what to believe anymore. He pulled the engagement ring off the coffee table where he'd left it. I think we should put the wedding on hold indefinitely. You're breaking up with me. I'm asking for space while taking back the ring. That's breaking up, Mark. He left with 2 suitcases and the ring. I sat on my couch in the silent apartment we'd shared for 3 years and felt absolutely nothing. I was too empty to even cry. My mother called the next day, but only to uninvite me from Christmas. The family doesn't feel comfortable with you there, given everything that's happened. We need to support Emily right now. Maybe next year when things calm down. My younger brother Nathan, who I'd always been close to, stopped returning my texts. My grandmother, who I visited every Sunday at her nursing home in Durham, passed away suddenly. Nobody told me until after the funeral. I found out from her obituary online. Emily's harassment continued through text messages from new numbers I couldn't block fast enough. She posted vague updates on social media about toxic family members and thieves. Her friends, who didn't know the real story, started sending me hateful messages. One showed up at my apartment building and screamed at me in the parking lot. Then the police detective called again. Miss Bennett, I wanted to give you a heads up. The district attorney is considering pressing charges. The forged loan documents combined with the payment records present a concerning picture. Without additional context, it appears you might have been making payments as hush money after stealing from your sister. That's insane, Detective Harris. I have bank statements proving I paid her bills voluntarily. Your attorney should gather all evidence for the DA's review. I'm just letting you know where things stand. A week later, I received an eviction notice. 3 months behind on rent, 30 days to vacate. That same week, my car got repossessed. I'd missed 3 payments while juggling other bills. I watched from my apartment window as a tow truck hauled away my Toyota Corolla. My bank account showed 473. In 30 days, I'd be homeless. I had no job, no car, no family support, and I was facing potential felony theft charges. Emily had won. She'd systematically destroyed every aspect of my life, and I had no idea how to fight back. I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by eviction notices, collection letters, and legal documents. And for the first time in my life, I understood how people just gave up. How they stopped fighting because what was the point? Every move I made, Emily countered with something worse. She was relentless and clever and had nothing to lose. I had everything to lose, and I was losing it. The extended stay motel on Route 70 in Raleigh charged $43 per night, which added up to about $1,300 monthly. It was the cheapest option I could find that didn't require a credit check or first and last month's rent. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and bleach. The bedspread had suspicious stains. The bathroom sink dripped constantly, but it had 4 walls and a door that locked, which put it ahead of my car, which no longer existed. I'd sold most of my furniture, my laptop, my nice clothes. Everything went on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for whatever people would pay. A stranger bought my grandmother's antique clock for $35. I cried handing it over. Job applications went nowhere. I applied to Target, Walmart, fast food restaurants, gas stations. Every application asked about criminal history. I had to check the box that said charges pending. Nobody called back. I started skipping meals. Breakfast was a granola bar. Lunch was whatever free samples they had at the grocery store. Dinner was ramen noodles or a $1 menu burger. I lost 12 pounds in 3 weeks. My clothes hung loose on my frame. Elizabeth called with updates on the legal case, but I couldn't afford her retainer anymore. She was working partially pro bono, which meant she was doing the bare minimum because she had paying clients who took priority. The DA hasn't filed formal charges yet, she told me. That's good news, but they haven't dropped the investigation either. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. I stopped answering my phone, stopped checking email, and spent entire days lying in the motel bed, staring at the ceiling while the television played shows I wasn't watching. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Claire Bennett? Yes. My name is Rachel Peterson. You don't know me, but I'm Michael Bennett's wife, Emily's ex-husband. I really need to speak with you in person. It's about Emily and the situation you're in. Every instinct screamed trap. But Rachel's voice sounded genuine, nervous, and I had nothing left to lose. We met at a coffee shop in a strip mall in Cary, 20 minutes away. Rachel was younger than I expected, maybe 29, with tired eyes and a baby carrier strapped to her chest, a sleeping infant nestled against her. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, ordering us both coffee despite my protest that I couldn't afford it. "I know this is weird, but I found something I think you need to see." She pulled out her phone and opened a screenshot folder. Michael and Emily have been having an affair for the past 8 months, throughout our entire marriage. I found text messages on his iPad. Her voice cracked. "They've been planning this whole thing against you. The forgery, the fake police report, everything." She scrolled through dozens of screenshots. Text messages between Emily and Michael discussing how to create convincing loan documents, emails about where to get legal paper, drafts of the forged signature, conversations about how to make it look authentic. One message from Emily made my blood run cold. "Once we threaten her freedom, she'll do anything. She'll pay forever. She's too weak to fight back." Michael's response: "What if she goes to the police?" Emily: "With what proof? We have documents with her signature. She has bank transfers that look like guilt payments. We've already destroyed her credibility. Nobody will believe her." I couldn't breathe. Rachel kept scrolling. "There's more. Emily's been doing this to other people too." She showed me more screenshots, messages referencing a $15,000 loan from Michael's mother that Emily never repaid, texts about a former roommate Emily scammed out of $8,000, emails discussing a boyfriend Emily convinced to pay her rent for a year before dumping him. "She's done this before," Rachel said, "multiple times. She finds people who care about her and bleeds them dry. When they try to stop, she destroys them." "Why are you helping me?" "Because I'm divorcing Michael. I have 2 kids with him, and I want full custody. If I can prove he committed forgery and fraud, I get leverage in the divorce. If I can prove he and Emily conspired together, I can protect my children from both of them." She slid a thumb drive across the table. "Everything's on here. All the text messages, emails, draft documents showing the forgery in progress. Your lawyer can use this to clear you. I've already made copies for my attorney. But I need this to work, Claire. I need your case to stick. So mine will too." I stared at the thumb drive like it was a winning lottery ticket. "Michael and Emily underestimated both of us," Rachel said. "They thought we'd just take it. But we're not going to, are we?" For the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt angry. Righteously, powerfully angry. "No," I said. "We're not." Elizabeth's face when I delivered the evidence was the first good moment I'd had in forever. She opened the files on her computer and her eyes went wide. "This is gold, Claire. This proves conspiracy and fraud. We can go on offense now instead of defense." Within a week, Elizabeth filed motions to dismiss the criminal charges against me. She simultaneously filed a civil lawsuit against Emily for fraud, defamation, and emotional distress. She filed a separate police report charging both Emily and Michael with conspiracy, forgery, and filing a false police report. The detective who'd been investigating me called with a different tone entirely. "Miss Bennett, in light of new evidence, we're dropping the investigation into you and opening one into your sister and Michael Bennett. I apologize for what you've been through. I wanted to feel vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired." Emily called me 67 times in one day once she found out. Her messages shifted from threatening to pleading. "Claire, please. We can work this out. Don't do this to our family. Think about Sophie. Always manipulating with Sophie. Always using her daughter as a shield." I didn't respond to any of it. The investigation into Emily and Michael moved quickly once police had Rachel's evidence. They discovered Emily had 7 different credit cards under slight variations of her name. They found she'd been fired from her retail management job for using fake employee discounts. Her landlord revealed she hadn't actually paid rent in 5 months. She'd been pocketing my rent payments and using them for other things. Emily's entire life was a house of cards built on lies and other people's money, and it was all collapsing. My brother Nathan called me for the first time in months. "Claire, I saw the news about Emily and Michael getting arrested. What the hell is going on?" I explained everything. The 2 years of payments, the forgery, the false charges, the systematic destruction of my life. "Jesus, Claire, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. We all should have." "Yeah," I said. "You should have." But even Nathan's apology felt hollow. Where had he been when I needed him? Where had any of them been? My mother called next, not to apologize, but to defend Emily. "Your father wants you to drop the charges. Emily needs help, not punishment. She has a daughter to think about." Where were you when Emily was destroying my life, Mom? Where were you when I was suspended from work and facing criminal charges and living in a motel? We didn't know the truth. You didn't want to know. You chose to believe her without even asking my side. She's your sister, Claire. And I'm your daughter, but you chose her. You always choose her. I hung up on my mother for the first time in my life. Elizabeth told me the criminal case was strong. Emily and Michael would likely face charges, but she warned me the civil case would take longer, and collecting any judgment would be nearly impossible. Emily has no assets to seize. She'll probably declare bankruptcy. You might never see that money. I didn't care anymore. This wasn't about money. It was about making sure Emily faced consequences for once in her life. The preliminary hearing was set for 6 weeks out. I started preparing my testimony, gathering 2 years of evidence, building my case. For the first time since Thanksgiving, I felt like maybe I wasn't drowning. Maybe I could breathe again. Maybe I could fight back and win. But I should have known Emily wasn't done. She never went down without taking everyone with her. The DA formally dropped all charges against me on a Tuesday morning. Elizabeth called with the news while I was eating gas station coffee and a stale muffin for breakfast. "You're officially cleared. The DA is moving forward with charges against Emily and Michael instead. Conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, filing a false police report." I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt numb. Being cleared didn't give me back my job or my apartment or the 2 years I'd spent paying Emily's bills. But the civil case was moving forward. Emily would have to answer for what she'd done in front of a judge. That was something. 1 week before the trial, my mother called again. "Claire, I received the strangest letter from Emily's landlord. He says she owes $12,000 in back rent, and that your father and I are guarantors on her lease. We never signed anything. She probably forged your signatures. Too, Mom. She's been doing that a lot lately." Silence on the other end. "Claire, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did Emily really do all those things you said? Yes, Mom, she did. I've been trying to tell you for months. I heard her breath catch, then quiet crying. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have believed you. I should have listened. I've been a terrible mother. The apology felt too little, too late, but I took it anyway because it was all I had. Dad still doesn't believe it, she continued. He says Emily is sick and needs help, not prison. He's threatening to divorce me if I testify against her in your case. Are you going to testify? I don't know. She's still my daughter, Claire. So am I. She didn't have an answer for that. My parents' marriage imploded over the next week. Dad moved into a hotel. Mom called me crying every night. My extended family split into factions. Some believed Emily was a victim of circumstances. Others finally saw her for what she was. The family group chat became a war zone until someone finally deleted it. Nathan stayed firmly on my side. He called Emily and told her exactly what he thought of her. She screamed at him that the whole family was turning against her, that she was the real victim, that nobody understood how hard her life was. The trial started on a cold Monday in February. The courtroom was smaller than I expected from watching legal dramas on TV. Emily sat at the defense table in a modest dress she must have borrowed because I'd never seen it before. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup. She looked tired, sad, and vulnerable. I knew it was an act. Her attorney, a slick guy named Robert Lee, painted a picture of a struggling single mother trying her best in impossible circumstances. He claimed Emily had simply been confused about the financial arrangement with me, that she'd genuinely believed I was helping out of sisterly love, not expecting repayment, that the loan documents were her attempt to formalize an existing arrangement, not forge evidence. Emily took the stand and performed beautifully. She cried at all the right moments, talked about how hard it was being a single mom, how grateful she'd been for my help, how shocked and hurt she was when I suddenly stopped the payments. I thought we were family, she said, dabbing her eyes. I never imagined my own sister would turn on me like this. Elizabeth cross-examined her, but Emily held up surprisingly well. She had an answer for everything. When Elizabeth showed the text messages from Michael's phone, Emily claimed she didn't remember those conversations. When confronted with the forged signatures, she said she'd asked me to sign, and I must have forgotten. The first day didn't go as well as I'd hoped. Day 2 was my turn to testify. I took the stand terrified, but Elizabeth had prepared me well. I presented 2 years of bank statements, text messages, where Emily explicitly asked me to pay specific bills, messages where she promised to pay me back, messages where she threatened me when I stopped the payments. These aren't gifts, I said calmly. These are payments she demanded with promises of repayment she never intended to keep. Robert tried to rattle me during cross-examination. He suggested I was a bitter sister jealous of Emily's life, that I'd made the payments hoping to control her, that I was vindictive and cruel. I kept my composure and stuck to the facts. Then Rachel testified. She brought printouts of every text message between Emily and Michael planning the forgery. The defense tried to object, but the judge allowed it as evidence of conspiracy. Rachel explained calmly how she'd discovered the affair and the scheme, how Michael had used his paralegal knowledge to create convincing forgeries, how Emily and Michael had laughed about manipulating me. One text message hit particularly hard. Emily to Michael. Claire's so predictable. She'll sacrifice anything for family. She's the perfect target. Several people in the courtroom gasped. I saw my mother put her hand over her mouth. My father sat stone-faced but pale. Elizabeth called additional witnesses: the bank representative who verified my payment records, the forensic document examiner who explained in detail how the loan documents were forged, Emily's former roommate who testified about the $8,000 scam, Michael's mother, who testified about the $15,000 loan Emily never repaid. A pattern emerged clearly. Emily was a serial con artist who targeted people who cared about her. On the third day, under intense cross-examination, Emily's mask finally cracked. Elizabeth asked specific questions about the timeline. When had Emily allegedly loaned me money? What dates? For what purposes? Emily's story kept changing. She contradicted herself 3 times in 5 minutes. When Elizabeth pointed this out, Emily's face flushed with anger. You don't understand what it's like being a single mother. You don't know how hard it is. That's not what I asked, Miss Bennet. Everyone's against me. My whole family turned on me because Claire poisoned them. Please answer the question. I don't remember exactly. It was a long time ago. Stop twisting my words. The judge warned Emily to compose herself, but the damage was done. The jury had seen behind the mask. Elizabeth delivered a closing argument that laid out the evidence methodically. The texts, the bank records, the forged documents, the pattern of behavior, the conspiracy with Michael. Emily Bennet is a con artist, Elizabeth said simply. She systematically defrauded her own sister out of $76,000. When her sister finally said no, Emily tried to destroy her life. She filed false criminal charges. She got her fired from her job. She turned her family against her. She nearly left her homeless, all because Claire had the audacity to stop being a victim. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the judge read the verdict. In favor of the plaintiff on all counts. Emily was ordered to pay me $76,000 in restitution for the payments I'd made, an additional $50,000 in damages for emotional distress, and another $32,000 for my legal fees. Total judgment, $158,000. Emily also faced criminal charges in a separate trial, scheduled for 6 weeks out. As the verdict was read, Emily broke down, screaming, "You're destroying me. You're destroying our family. I hope you're happy." My father rushed to comfort her. My mother sat frozen in her seat, tears streaming down her face. I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just exhaustion. Outside the courtroom, Nathan hugged me tight. "You did it, Claire. You won." But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like surviving. Elizabeth warned me that collecting the judgment would be nearly impossible. Emily had no money and would likely declare bankruptcy. I might never see a penny of that $158,000. I told her I didn't care. It was never about the money. It was about making sure Emily finally faced consequences, about proving I wasn't the villain she'd painted me to be, about showing everyone who'd turned on me that I'd been telling the truth all along. That night, my mother called. "Your father and I are separating. He can't accept what Emily did. He still thinks she's the victim in all this." "I'm sorry, Mom." "Don't be. I should have left him years ago. He's always enabled her, made excuses, protected her from everything. Look where it got us." We sat in silence on the phone for a long moment. "Can I come see you?" she asked quietly. "Yeah, Mom, you can come see me." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. The next 2 months felt like being stuck in place while everyone around me moved forward. My criminal record was cleared. The company that had forced me to resign called, offering my old job back. I told them, "No, some wounds don't heal just because someone says they're sorry." I found work at a different financial firm instead. Smaller company, lower pay, but they believed my story and gave me a chance. I moved out of the motel into a tiny studio apartment in Cary, furnished it with secondhand items from thrift stores, started rebuilding my savings one paycheck at a time. Emily's criminal trial resulted in convictions, felony fraud, conspiracy, and filing a false police report. The judge sentenced her to 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and ordered her to wear an ankle monitor. She would serve no jail time due to it being her first offense and having a minor child. The custody battle with Michael didn't go well for either of them. Given both parents' criminal records, the judge placed Sophie temporarily with Michael's mother while CPS evaluated permanent placement options. Emily's social media transformed into a pity party. She posted constantly about how the justice system was broken, how she was a victim of false accusations, how everyone had abandoned her in her time of need. Her followers, who didn't know the real story, sent her money through donation apps. She moved back in with our father, who continued to enable her. He paid her fines, drove her to community service, made excuses for her behavior. My mother's divorce from him proceeded quickly once she saw he'd never change. Elizabeth's warnings about collecting the judgment proved accurate. Emily had no assets to seize. Every time she got a job, she quit within weeks to avoid wage garnishment. She started working under the table. She declared bankruptcy, and most of my judgment was discharged. I'd won in court but lost financially. The legal fees alone had cost me $42,000. I was further in debt than when this started. But at least I had my life back, my reputation restored, and my family, or what was left of it, knew the truth. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from Child Protective Services. "Miss Bennett, this is Nancy Clark from CPS. Your sister Emily listed you as an emergency contact for her daughter Sophie. We have a situation and need to place Sophie temporarily. Michael's mother, who had custody, suffered a stroke last night and is hospitalized. Michael himself is currently in county jail for violating probation. Emily violated her probation as well and was arrested this morning. There's no other family willing to take Sophie. Would you be able to provide temporary foster placement?" My first instinct was to say no. Absolutely not. I wanted nothing to do with Emily or anything related to her. But then I thought about Sophie. Sweet 6-year-old Sophie, who I used to take to the aquarium, who drew me pictures of dolphins, who had nothing to do with her mother's terrible choices. "How temporary?" I asked. "It could be a few days or a few months. We'll be evaluating all options for permanent placement, but right now, she needs somewhere safe to sleep tonight." I thought about Sophie sleeping in a stranger's home, scared and confused. "I'll take her," I said. Sophie arrived 3 hours later with a CPS worker named Maria. Everything she owned was stuffed into a garbage bag. Her clothes, a few toys, a worn stuffed dolphin. She looked so small standing in my doorway. "Hi, Aunt Claire," she said quietly. "Hi, sweetheart. Come on in." The first week was hard. Sophie had nightmares every night. She'd been bounced between homes for months, never staying anywhere long enough to feel stable. She'd been told so many lies about me by Emily that she didn't know what to believe. She broke things, testing me, had screaming tantrums, refused to eat. I was completely unprepared for any of it. I took her to a therapist who specialized in childhood trauma. Dr. Ellen helped, both of us, helped Sophie understand that the chaos wasn't her fault, helped me understand how to parent a traumatized child. Slowly, Sophie began to trust me. The tantrums lessened. She started sleeping through the night. She drew me a picture of the two of us holding hands. Then Emily got out of jail after serving 30 days due to jail overcrowding. She was released back to probation with stricter terms, and she wanted Sophie back. The calls started immediately, Emily calling from my father's house, demanding to speak to Sophie. CPS arranged supervised phone calls. Every single call set Sophie back emotionally. Emily would tell her, "Aunt Claire is keeping us apart. I'll come get you soon, baby." Sophie would spend hours after each call asking when her mom was coming, crying herself to sleep, having nightmares again. I requested the calls be stopped. Emily's attorney fought it, claiming parental rights. The court scheduled a hearing to determine what was in Sophie's best interest. My parents fought over it constantly. My father demanded I drop my guardianship petition and give Emily another chance. My mother, who'd been helping me with Sophie, disagreed completely. Their divorce turned even uglier. Nathan supported me fully. He'd become Sophie's favorite person besides me. He'd take her to the park and play soccer with her. She called him Uncle Nathan and lit up whenever he visited. Then everything exploded. On a Saturday afternoon, I took Sophie grocery shopping. We were picking out cereal when my phone rang. My father. "Emily's on her way to your apartment. She's coming to get Sophie. I gave her my spare key to your place." "You did what?" "She's Sophie's mother. She has rights, Claire. She's under court order not to have unsupervised contact." I hung up and grabbed Sophie's hand. We rushed home, but Emily was already there. She'd used my father's key to break into my apartment. She was packing Sophie's things into garbage bags. "Mom?" Sophie stood frozen in the doorway. "Baby, come here. We're leaving. Aunt Claire can't keep you from me anymore." "Emily, you can't do this. You're violating your probation. You're breaking the law." "She's my daughter. I'm taking her home." Sophie started crying. "I don't want to go. Aunt Claire, I don't want to go." Emily grabbed Sophie's arm. "We're leaving right now." I called 911 while Emily dragged Sophie toward the door. Sophie was screaming and crying, terrified. Emily was crying too, desperate and unhinged. "Please don't do this," I begged. "Please, Emily. Think about what this is doing to her. You took everything from me. My money, my family, my daughter. I'm taking her back." Police arrived within minutes. Emily had made it 3 blocks before they caught her. Sophie was hysterical. Emily was arrested for probation violation, attempted kidnapping, and breaking and entering. This time, the judge denied bail. Emily was remanded to custody pending a full hearing. She faced serious prison time. Sophie didn't speak for 3 days after the incident. She barely ate, had nightmares where she woke up screaming. Her therapist said the attempted kidnapping had severely traumatized her. CPS scheduled an emergency custody hearing. The guardian ad litem interviewed Sophie, me, my parents, Nathan, and even called Emily from jail. At the hearing 2 weeks later, the judge asked me directly what I wanted. "Your Honor, I never planned to be a parent. I have a demanding job. I'm single. I'm still recovering financially from everything that happened. But Sophie needs stability. She needs safety. She needs someone who puts her first. I can provide that. I want permanent legal guardianship." Emily appeared via video from jail. "She stole my daughter. She's poisoned Sophie against me. I'm her mother." The guardian ad litem gave her report. Sophie had bonded securely with me. She felt safe in my home. She was thriving in school. The attempted kidnapping had traumatized her. Emily showed no insight into how her actions affected her child. The judge ruled in my favor. I was granted full legal guardianship of Sophie. Emily's parental rights were suspended pending completion of her criminal sentence and successful completion of parenting classes and mental health treatment. "The court's primary concern is the best interest of the child," the judge said. "Right now, that means stability with her aunt." Emily screamed through the video monitor. "You're stealing my baby. You've taken everything from me. I hope you're happy." The screen went dark as guards removed her. Sophie sat next to me in the courtroom, holding my hand. She looked up at me with big, scared eyes. "Does this mean I get to stay with you?" "Yes, sweetheart. You get to stay with me." She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. My father, sitting in the back of the courtroom, stood up and walked out without a word. My mother came over and put her arms around both of us. "You're doing the right thing," she whispered. I hoped she was right, because I'd just chosen to give up any chance of my old life to raise my sister's traumatized daughter. Mark was gone forever. My savings were depleted. My career had taken a back seat. My relationship with my father was destroyed. All I had left was a scared little girl who needed me. I prayed it would be enough. The first few months with Sophie were harder than anything I'd ever done. She tested every boundary, broke my coffee mug on purpose to see if I'd send her away, refused to do homework, had meltdowns over small things. But we worked through it together. Therapy twice a week for both of us. Establishing routines, school homework at the kitchen table, dinner together every night, bedtime stories. Simple things that gave her the stability she'd never had. Slowly, the broken pieces started healing. 3 months in, Sophie asked me something while I was tucking her into bed. "Aunt Claire, are you going to stay?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Everyone leaves. My dad left. My mom keeps leaving. Michael's grandma had to go to the hospital. Everyone always leaves." My heart broke. "I'm not going anywhere, Sophie. I promise you're stuck with me forever." "Forever?" She finally smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Good. Because I love you." "I love you too, baby." That was the turning point. After that night, Sophie started calling me Aunt Claire with warmth instead of confusion. She brought me pictures she drew at school, asked me to come to her soccer games, told her friends I was her aunt who she lived with. Emily's final trial happened 9 months after the attempted kidnapping. She was convicted on all charges. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in state prison with credit for time served. During sentencing, the judge read a statement about patterns of manipulation and complete lack of accountability. Miss Bennett has shown no remorse for her actions, no understanding of how her behavior has harmed others, particularly her own daughter. This court hopes that prison will provide the structure and rehabilitation she clearly needs. Emily's last words before being led away were blaming me for everything, for destroying her life, for stealing her daughter, for turning the family against her. I attended the sentencing but didn't speak. What was there to say? Emily would never take responsibility, would never admit what she'd done. She'd always be the victim in her own story. I just felt sad. Sad for the sister I thought I had. Sad for Sophie who deserved better. Sad for all the wasted potential. My family slowly healed, though some wounds never fully closed. My mother divorced my father and moved into a small apartment 20 minutes from me in Cary. She became an active grandmother to Sophie, babysitting when I had to work late, teaching Sophie to bake cookies, attending every school event. My father eventually wrote me a letter from an addiction recovery program. He admitted he'd enabled Emily her whole life, that he'd been a terrible father to me while protecting her from consequences. He asked for a chance to know Sophie. I thought about it for a long time, then arranged supervised visits. My father was stiff and awkward at first, but Sophie's sweetness eventually broke through his walls. He started showing up consistently, kept his promises, proved he could change. Extended family members who'd believed Emily's lies reached out one by one. My Aunt Susan sent a massive gift basket and a tearful apology. Cousins who'd blocked me on social media reconnected. Uncle David showed up at my door with tools to help me assemble Sophie's new bed. The following Thanksgiving, we had a much smaller gathering at my mother's apartment. Just Mom, Nathan, and his girlfriend, 2 cousins who genuinely apologized, and Sophie. Emily's empty chair at my parents' old house was replaced by a table full of people who actually showed up when it mattered. I gave a toast that night. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up, who stays, who chooses you, even when it's hard. That's what matters. Sophie helped make pumpkin pie that day. She got flour everywhere and laughed when I pretended to be mad. This Thanksgiving looked nothing like the one 4 years ago, and I was grateful for that. Work improved dramatically. My new company appreciated my honesty and work ethic. They promoted me to senior analyst within a year. I used my experience to volunteer with a nonprofit teaching financial literacy to domestic violence survivors, helping women recognize financial abuse patterns and set boundaries. I turned my pain into purpose. The company featured my story in their internal newsletter. I became a mentor to younger colleagues, spoke on a panel about workplace resilience, and built a career that felt meaningful instead of just paying bills. My personal life took longer to rebuild. Mark was gone forever, but eventually I realized that was a blessing. I deserved someone who would stand by me during hard times, not someone who needed space when things got difficult. I met Daniel at one of Sophie's soccer games. He was there watching his daughter play on the same team. An elementary school teacher, divorced, with kind eyes and a patient smile. We started talking on the sidelines, then coffee after games, then actual dates once we were both sure. Daniel understood single parenting in ways Mark never could. He had joint custody of his daughter, Emma, who was 8, and got along great with Sophie. We took things slow, no rushing, no pressure, just building something real based on mutual respect and understanding. Financial recovery took years. I never collected a penny of the $158,000 judgment. Emily declared bankruptcy, and the debt was discharged. But I rebuilt my savings slowly, $50 each paycheck, then $100, then $200. 3 years after getting custody of Sophie, I'd saved enough for a down payment on a small house. Nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch in a decent school district in Apex. But it had a backyard for Sophie and a room she could decorate however she wanted. She chose dolphin wallpaper borders and teal curtains, covered her walls with drawings and photos. It was messy and chaotic and perfect. 3.5 years after the attempted kidnapping, I received a letter from Emily in prison. The envelope had been opened and inspected by correctional officers. Inside were 3 pages in Emily's handwriting. She'd been in mandatory therapy at the prison. The letter showed self-awareness I'd never seen from her before. She apologized for everything, for using me, for the lies, for the forged documents, for trying to destroy my life. She said she understood why I had to protect Sophie from her. She asked for photos of Sophie, said she didn't expect forgiveness, but hoped I knew she was finally getting help. I read the letter 5 times, discussed it with my therapist, thought about it for weeks. Finally, I wrote back, kept it brief and boundaried but honest. I acknowledged her apology, told her Sophie was thriving, sent 1 photo of Sophie smiling at her last soccer game, but I didn't promise reconciliation or that Emily could have a relationship with Sophie when she got out. I wrote, "I hope you find peace. I have." I set a firm boundary. All future contact would go through attorneys only. I wouldn't respond to letters directly. This wasn't cruelty. It was self-preservation. Sophie, now 10, was thriving in ways I never imagined possible. She made the honor roll every semester, joined the soccer team, and became their best defender. She had sleepovers with friends where they giggled too loud and stayed up too late. She was just a normal kid having a normal childhood. She rarely asked about Emily anymore. When she did, I answered honestly but age-appropriately. I never badmouthed her mother but didn't lie about what happened either. Sophie's therapist said she was graduating from treatment soon. Her resilience amazed everyone. One day, Sophie came home from school with a writing assignment. Write about your hero and why they inspire you. She'd written about me, about how I saved her when she had nowhere to go, how I made her feel safe, how I taught her what family really means. Her teacher had given her an A+. I cried reading it. 4 years after that Thanksgiving dinner that changed everything, Sophie and I were in our kitchen making holiday preparations. Daniel and Emma were coming over, along with my mother, Nathan, and a few close friends. A small gathering, but genuine. Sophie stirred cranberry sauce and told a joke she'd heard at school. We laughed together in the warm kitchen that smelled like turkey and pie. The doorbell rang, and more people arrived, bringing dishes and smiles and love. I looked around at the life I'd built from the ashes of the old one. Nothing had turned out the way I planned. I'd lost my fiancé, most of my savings, years of peace, and a career I loved. But I'd gained Sophie. I'd gained authentic relationships with people who showed up when it mattered. I'd learned my own worth. I'd discovered strength I never knew I had. I'd built something real instead of maintaining something broken. Sophie tugged my sleeve. "Aunt Claire, are you happy?" I thought about everything I'd lost, the money, the relationship, the years of struggle. Then I thought about what I'd gained, this bright, funny, loving child who I got to raise, a mother who finally chose me, a brother who stood by me, friends who believed me, a partner who showed up consistently, a career with purpose, a home filled with genuine love. "Yes, sweetheart," I answered. "Honestly, I really am." "Me too." She hugged me tight, then ran off to answer the door for more arriving guests. I stood in my kitchen, watching the home I'd built fill with laughter and warmth. I thought back to that Thanksgiving table 4 years ago, Emily's cruel words, the silent stares, my quiet smile as I canceled those payments, Emily's phone buzzing with the consequences of her own choices. That single moment of boundary setting had destroyed my life temporarily, but it also gave me the chance to build something better, something authentic, something mine. I'd learned the hardest lessons, that enabling someone doesn't help them, it destroys you both. That you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. That setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's survival. That sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you love most. That blood doesn't make family, but showing up does. I'd learned that sometimes winning means walking away from the game entirely, that protecting your peace is worth more than anyone's approval, that you teach people how to treat you by what you accept. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes losing everything gives you the chance to build something better. Emily got 4 years in prison. I got Sophie, and a life worth living. When you think about it that way, I won after all. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who were taking advantage of you? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself? How did you find the courage to say no to someone you loved? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about real people overcoming real challenges. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to put themselves first, that it's okay to walk away from toxic situations, even when they involve family. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that you're stronger than you think, that you deserve people who value you, that your peace matters, that saying no is sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for the people you're enabling. Take care of yourselves. Set those boundaries. Choose people who choose you. And remember that sometimes the best thing you can do is simply stop playing a game you were never meant to win. Until next time, wishing you the courage to protect your peace and the wisdom to know your worth.